All right, what's up, guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 1998 Dodge Viper GTS. Up front is a 8.0 liter V10. That is right, you heard that correctly. It is a V10. And down below is a 6-speed manual transmission. And if you want to read more of my thoughts, head on over to carmarshal.com/overdrive, where I'll be writing a complete article about the Dodge Viper GTS. But let's get back to that 8-liter V10. Well, some of you guys might be thinking that it's a truck engine because at the time, Dodge did have a V10 version of their Ram. And that's kind of true. Yes, they had a V10 Ram. That's not the not true part, but they're similar engines, but they're not the same. So to say that this Viper has a truck engine, you're not really being accurate. Actually, this engine was developed with the help of Lamborghini. So as a kid, I loved Lamborghinis. My dream review would be a Lamborghini Murcielago, whatever, because I had about 3 posters in my room when I was a kid of that car. So I'm getting closer to reviewing a Lamborghini. This is just, the Viper got help from Lamborghini. I'm gonna keep saying it because I can't even believe it myself. It's an 8-liter V10. By far the largest engine I've ever driven or reviewed, and I think it'll probably stay that way for quite some time. All right, so I'm trying out a new microphone. I don't know how well it'll capture everything, but I am going to do a pull in the Viper. Wow, you feel all 8 liters, that's for sure. It feels a lot more stable than the Z06 that I drove. If you guys saw that review, that thing got real squirrely. And yeah, there for a second, it did get a little squirrely, but nowhere near that Z06. That Z06 was a code brown. It's really weird because I've driven a Hellcat, which is a very modern Dodge, and that kind of felt, it was very powerful, but sort of lazy with the power. And the fact that like the ride was real comfortable and all that. But this, it's not to say it's an uncomfortable ride, but this really throws the power at you. This is not lazy horsepower. Also, this car has 335s on the rear, which actually do a great job at gripping, which they should because they are $400 a piece. Now, if you hear that exhaust, this car does have an upgraded camshaft. So it does kind of have that lopey cammed sound. Now it is a 6-speed transmission, which I was surprised at. I didn't know it was a 6-speed, but it is so easy. It has a real nice short throw. It's real easy in and out of gear. The clutch is a little bit heavy, but my main gripe with the clutch is that the pedals, the brake pedal and the clutch pedal, are so close to one another that actually while I was shifting when I first got into the car, I actually hit the brake and the clutch at the same time with my left foot. That's how close together they are. But the car is real easy to drive at slow speeds. I'm doing about 35 right now, 3rd gear, under 2,000 RPM, and it's real simple, it's real easy. It doesn't feel like a struggle. Downshifting, you barely need to give it any revs at all, which is just, it's crazy. Just the amount of torque from 10 cylinders. You barely blip the throttle and you're downshifting. So let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me I have 2 gauges, tachometer and speedometer. That's it. And I really like that. It really keeps the interior simple, clean. To the right, I do have kind of a 3rd gauge pod, and that's just all my warning lights. It's actually blacked out right now, but once a warning light comes up, then obviously it shines. In the center, I have 4 gauges for coolant temperature, oil pressure, fuel, and then battery voltage. All very, very useful items. Down below that, we get 3 vents. There's an aftermarket radio, air conditioning controls, which do work. This car actually only has 25,000 miles on it, which is amazing. It does have air conditioning. Then you have your power window switches, your defroster. You get a cigarette lighter, obviously the shifter then down here, a little ashtray, and the parking brake is then next to the ashtray, and the parking brake is so huge. It's so big when it's up. It looks like an afterthought almost. It's Really, truly crazy. Then behind me here, I have a little bag almost, and then I have a little center console that you can stow away things. But right here, right where my arm sits, there's nothing. There's no openable center console, there's no switches, no dials, no anything. It's just a giant piece for my arm to go. Interestingly enough, as you'll notice, the seat belts actually also come from the middle. When I first got in, I went for a ride with the owner, and I reached for the seat belt on this side because I was sitting passenger, and there wasn't anything. And I was like, oh, it has seat belts, right? They come from the middle. One thing about the interior I really don't like is that my knee, you can probably hear it. I don't know if you can hear that. It keeps hitting the dashboard. So like I said, shifting with the clutch, at least where I'm sitting. Now, if you're a different height than me, this will be different, but it keeps hitting the dashboard. It's really uncomfortable. Another thing I don't like so much about the interior is the fact that there's a lot of shared products in here. The ignition switch where you actually put the key in is the exact same as my 1998 Dodge Ram I used to have. The window switches right here are shared. The vents are shared. There's a lot of shared Mopar parts, which makes this car really interesting. As the owner was describing to me, it's really two cars when it comes to parts. There's the very, very special Dodge Viper parts. The hood alone is $15,000. The hood, just the hood, if you wanted to get a replacement hood, about 15 grand. But if you need a replacement window switch, $5-10 maybe. The rear bushings for the suspension, I think he said all said and done were like $25. It's just really weird because it's a lot of Mopar parts bin, but also a lot of very special parts, which makes it really, really interesting. Another interesting thing is that the doors are actually power. So the door handles on the outside are actually a button, and then when you notice on the inside, it says pull for emergency exit. So there is a way to get out of the car if you totally have to, or if the battery's dead or something like that. But it does have power doors, which is interesting. Another really weird thing about this car is that there's no interior hood latch. There's one in the front grille, you pull that, and then you pull a second one once the hood's popped a little bit, and then you pull the entire, essentially, front of the car up. I was doing the exterior shots for this thing, and I was looking at it, and it just looks so weird with the whole front of the car just up. And then with the Viper, you have to talk about the looks. This is a very striking car. You just don't see cars quite like it. And I'll get into that in a little bit, why I think that's so cool. But I really like the little hood scoop on the front. I think that looks really cool. And I really like the tail of this car. The car just looks great from behind. And you also have all of these scoops and vents. And it's just, it doesn't look like anything else on the road. Another interesting part on the outside, you see the fuel filler cap. Anyone can just open that. It's not locked. It just looks cool. But that is also a $1,200 piece. But I think I've boiled it down. I think I've boiled the Viper down to what it really is. The Viper is essentially the product of a 10-year-old boy's wish. If a 10-year-old boy had wished his Hot Wheels car to life, this is what it would be. Just look at the proportions. Look at how sloping the front end of the car is. Think about it. What would a little kid want? They would want the biggest engine possible, even though this isn't the most powerful engine. Hellcats make more power out of a V8. This car really only makes about 450, 500 horsepower. Not a whole lot for a V10, but V10, it sounds so good. A 10-year-old kid would want that. I forgot to talk about this. The exhaust runs down the side of the car. Even though it exits out the back, it runs out the side. So there's actually a warning label in the door that warns you that it's going to be hot because the door sill gets so hot because that's where the exhaust is. The visibility in this thing is not great. You don't have a whole lot of looking up visibility. I don't know what you'd call that. But again, that's something that, like, when you wish a Hot Wheels car to be alive, this is what you get. It's oddly proportioned. It's not that comfortable. But you know what? It's fun to drive. And this car is so special. I didn't realize before I did this review, in 1998, they made less than 1,000 of these. There are less than 1,000 1998 Vipers, which is so weird because everyone knows about the Viper, but they're like the least rare car I think I can think of, because like everyone knows about Vipers, but then when you think about it, who do you know with a Viper? When was the last time you saw a Viper just driving around? God, and that V10 is just something else. Woo! That'll knock your socks off. Now, a lot of people are scared of the Viper. They're scared because this doesn't have ABS. This doesn't have traction control. You know, it's close to 500 horsepower with no aids at all. There's no help when driving this thing. And yes, that would scare a lot of people in the modern day. But me, there's just something so raw about this car. The fact that it's so powerful without any type of forced induction. Oh man. Yes, Lamborghini helped produce this engine, but this is not a Lamborghini V8. It really isn't. Now, I was asked, actually by my dad, because I really wanted to show him the car. He came up to me and he said, "So you want one now?" And I thought about it. Yes, this is a great, fun car, but I don't know if I would want one. I don't know if I would actually willingly go out and spend my money on one. This is a really, really niche car. Niche, whatever. Because no, sitting in here, it's not that comfortable. And I would be so worried that I would dent it or scratch it that I don't think, honestly, I'd drive this car all that much. But for people who love Dodge, who love Vipers, my friend Andy Morrison, he's wanted a Viper forever. He would love one of these. But for me, because I'm not a die-hard Viper fan, I'm not as willing to put up with its little annoyances, if you will. But man, I respect this thing. I respect Mopar from the 90s for making this thing. And I'm really, really glad I got to drive one and review one. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys learned something about the 1998 Dodge Viper GTS. If you want to read more of my thoughts, head on over to carmarshall.com/overdrive. But again, hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, subscribe if you really like to. Take care, guys.
Is that a 1992 Dodge Viper?
1998.
98?
Yep.
Oh, is that thing tense, man?
Come on and see it.
That thing's beautiful.
Thank you.
Is it yours?
No, I do car reviews, so I'm just reviewing it.
Awesome, I like it. I'll give it a positive review, I promise.
Thank you.
There goes a sight from my soul.